Hello, and thank you for tuning in to a live walk in Washington, D.C. this morning around Georgetown and along the Potomac River waterfront all the way over to the Lincoln Memorial. My name is Rob. If you've never seen me before, I am a tour guide and the founder of Trip Hacks DC Tours. This is a live stream, which means that if you are tuned in live, you can go ahead and say hello in the live chat. But if you're watching this on the replay, that's okay too. I'm curious about if you have ever been to any of the places that we are going to on today's walk. So leave me a comment if you're watching this on the replay, and let me know if you have walked this route before or been to any of the places that we are going to go together, as I'm always curious about where people have been and all of that. So good morning, Eddie Saunders. Eddie Saunders, a Trip Hacks DC insider, one of the OG insiders, and happy to see you here this morning, Eddie. Alan Wynn, good to see you, my friend. Bright and early on a Sunday morning, as I know you always wake up just in time for these live streams. And Karen McGinn from New Jersey. Karen says Georgetown is lovely, always a fun walk. Georgetown is a very popular destination. Not my personal favorite neighborhood, but that's okay. Every neighborhood doesn't have to be my personal favorite. I know that this is a popular one for a lot of people, especially visitors, and I am not above giving the people what they want. We did a live walk around Georgetown over the summer, but it was a little bit different route. So I started actually in Virginia, and then I crossed over the Key Bridge, and we went in the opposite direction up towards Georgetown University. So if I spin around here, you'll be able to see this Georgetown, welcome to Georgetown University sign right behind me there. So that is where I'm starting. I'm at 37th and Prospect Street Northwest, and I wanted to start over here because I wanted to give an important update about the Georgetown Transformers. A few folks have been asking me about those lately, so we'll take a stroll past those and see if they're still there. And then we will go down to the waterfront, check out the Georgetown waterfront, and walk all the way along the water, hopefully end over by the Lincoln Memorial. And then there will be an extended Insiders Live Walk immediately after that. So if you are a Trip Hacks DC Insider, you get quite a few perks. One of the best perks is that you get to join me for every extended live walk that takes place immediately after these. So Eddie, I hopefully will be seeing you there along with any of the other insiders who are tuned in this morning. So let me go ahead and flip the camera around. Focus please, and there we go. And we will begin our walk. Flora Silva, good morning from North Carolina. Jay Stewart tuned in from Coventry in the UK. How's the weather over in Coventry today, Jay? I'm curious. It is a beautiful, beautiful fall day here in Washington, D.C. And couldn't have asked really for a better fall day after we had quite a few really warm, above average temperature fall days. We finally got one that you can actually put on a sweatshirt. Now you might notice as we're walking around, not everybody has a sweatshirt or a jacket, because it's one of these days where if you're in the sun, it's warmer than if you're in the shade. And there's a breeze today. So when it's breezy, it cools down. Maria, good morning, good to see you there. Alan Wynn, part of the Trip Hacks DC notification squad. Eddie's videos will be visiting DC in a couple of weeks. Glad you are enjoying the videos. Eddie's videos. And yes, Eddie Saunders, I can confirm the weather is amazing today. It doesn't just look amazing, is amazing. Well, here are the Transformers. They're still here. They've even gone political with their yard signs here. Now the Transformers were here the last time I visited, and the question was, will they stick around or will they go away? I posted a video on TikTok about these Transformers, and it got a lot of comments, more comments I think than any of my other TikTok videos. People had very strong opinions about the Transformers. And it turns out that TikTok is actually not a good place to have a nuanced discussion about things. The question about whether these Transformers are allowed to be here or not, or whether they're legal or not, is whether stand that they're on Is that part of the house behind it? Or is that part of the side city property? And it really, ultimately, whether these transformers are allowed to be there like that depends on the answer to that question. Now, when I posted on TikTok, of course, half the comments were like, it's the owner's property, he can do whatever he wants, which kind of misses the point, because it's not a matter of them being on his property, it's a question of whether they are or not. Jay Stewart says it rained this morning, but that's okay. About 60 degrees now. Thank you for converting that to Fahrenheit, Jay. I don't know how to do Celsius very well, but I'm getting better at it. Given to Dream, good morning. Good to see you. Jeff J, hopefully we'll have a little bit better luck. I always have trouble on this block right here with not the best signal. No idea what's up with this block right here, but apologies if you're getting some buffering. Hopefully that will resolve. Gary Sorensen, good to see you, my friend, from Wisconsin. Well, I am about to turn the corner to the Exorcist steps, a Georgetown staple. Not sure if you can see the guy getting the selfie over there, as one does when they visit the Exorcist steps. But of course, Halloween is only in 2 weeks, so I couldn't come over to Georgetown and not do the Exorcist steps. Oh. Jeff J is coming to the city in a few weeks. What are you most looking forward to, Jeff? Now, the last time I did the Exorcist steps, I went up. Today I am going down. Down. If I'm quiet here for a few moments, it's because I'm watching my step. The last thing we all need is for me to come tumbling down the Exorcist stairs like in the movie. Ruin the rest of the live stream. And I made it. So there they are, the world famous Exorcist steps here in Georgetown. So if you're a fan of the movie, come check it out when you come visit. And because it's Halloween, I felt like I just had to. And thankfully I made it all the way to the bottom without a crash. Okay, Jeff J is looking forward to seeing everything again. Last time he was here was in December 2019. Well, I totally understand that, Jeff. December 2019 was what, 3 months before everything melted down? Eddie's videos, I am using my phone. It is an LG phone, one of the last LG phones that they made. If you follow tech news, you might have heard that LG will no longer be making phones. So they'll be making TVs, washing machines, who knows what other stuff, but no more phones. Coldplayer, good morning. Coldplayer's got the special Trip Hacks DC emojis. If you become an insider, you can get access to those special emojis. And if you want to become an insider, depending on what kind of device you're on, if you're on a computer, there may be a join button underneath the video in the browser. If you are on a phone, if you're on an Android phone, the join button should be down there too. If you're on an iPhone, I recently learned, the join button may be missing. I guess Google and Apple are not getting along. So I put a special link in the video description that you can click or tap. I believe it's triphacksdc.com/join. join insiders, something like that. Okay, we're gonna have to cross back over the street. Not a fan of this intersection, I'm not gonna lie. Tricky to get across this one. Jeff J is going to take an Amtrak to Union Station and stay at the Phoenix Hotel. That is one of my recommended hotels. Perhaps you know that because you went to triphacksdc.com/hotels and looked at the recommended hotels guide. The Phoenix Park Hotel is right next to Union Station, so very convenient if you want to be near the train. What city are you coming from, Jeff, as I'm curious? Whenever people take Amtrak in, where they are coming from, if it's a shorter distance like from Philly or if it's a long distance. I've had some tour customers this year who did some long distance trains to get to DC. I feel your pain, Jeff. 2019 was a long time ago, a long time to wait to have to come back to DC. And Eddie's Videos will also be staying at the Phoenix Hotel. Is it good? I think it's a great location. I have not actually stayed there. I have to be honest, I have not stayed at most of the hotels on the recommended hotels guide because you typically don't stay at hotels in your own city. But what I do know is that it's a very good location, especially if you want to be close to Union Station. It's close to the Capitol, it's close to the Library of Congress. And I've had some tour customers who stayed there and gave it high marks. All right. Yes, Jeff says the Phoenix Park Hotel, from what he can tell, is pretty decent all the way around, price-wise and such. It's not a fancy hotel. It's not a Ritz-Carlton, but it is pretty solid. It's one of those solid choices. And Jeff is coming from Raleigh, North Carolina. I believe that's also where Eddie Saunders comes from when Eddie comes to DC. So perhaps you two can exchange some tips about traveling to DC from Raleigh on the train. I don't know if you took the train last time, Eddie, but I know that you do like to do that. Vivian Young from New York City. Good to see you here, Vivian. I have taken the Amtrak train to a few places, almost all of them to the north of DC. So that would be Philly, New York City. I've not gone all the way to Boston, although one could if they really wanted to. Go all the way to Boston. Hannah Fountain, good to see you. What do I recommend for a family of six with a family with a 6-year-old visiting over Halloween? This will be our third long weekend. So the biggest disappointment, Hannah, is that Boo at the Zoo, the big Halloween zoo event, is not happening this year. The zoo blamed COVID. I don't think that's actually the reason. I think there is another reason, but I won't speculate since it's just speculation. But I believe that the Halloween kids event at the Air and Space Museum is happening, so you can Google that, try to get some info on that, and if it will overlap with your trip. If you're here the weekend of Halloween, you should be okay for that. But those are typically the two big Halloween things to do for kids, and unfortunately one of them's not happening. But hopefully you can get in on the other one, the Air and Space Museum Kids Halloween. C&O Canal looking pretty decent on a nice day today. That's the look to the east, and here's the look to the west. For folks who are coming in from the west, you can actually ride a bike from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the C&O Trail. Back when I used to give a bike tour, I used to see folks coming in from Pittsburgh on their bikes, and the bikes were filthy because this is a dirt trail, and when it gets wet, it gets muddy. Jeff J says, have always driven but always wanted to take but have been wanting to take the train. The train is a great way to get places, in my opinion. And Eddie Saunders also drove last time, but many other visits have been on Amtrak. Good stuff, good stuff. Michelle Pretzer from Central California. Thank you for tuning in and for waking up early, because I know it is still early morning out in California. 11 a.m. What time is it here? It's 11:15 a.m. Washington, D.C. time, which I believe means it is 8:15 a.m. on the West Coast. So I'll let these guys get their bikes down the stairs. And since we're 15 minutes in, if you joined after I started, welcome, hello. I've gone ahead and put the sunglasses on as it is a bit of a sunny day. My name is Rob. I'm a tour guide and the founder of Trip Hacks DC, this YouTube channel, and Trip Hacks DC Tours. So if you want a tour guide when you visit, I can show you around. If you haven't introduced yourself in the chat yet and you're watching this live, go ahead and say hello in the chat and where you're watching from. I keep looking down, I apologize, to make sure I don't slip and fall on these stairs. Where you're watching from, and if you are planning an upcoming trip to Washington, D.C., or if you're not, if you think, when you think the next time you'll come to Washington, D.C. is. Okay. Did a whole bunch of stairs on this one. The Exorcist stairs, the C&O Canal stairs. May do some more stairs once we get over near the Kennedy Center. But I am crossing the street now. Now, above me, this is called the Whitehurst Freeway. Depending on who you ask, one of the great urban freeway monstrosities. But the good news is that on the other side is the beautiful Georgetown Waterfront Park. A somewhat recent addition in Washington, D.C. history. At one point, this is actually where the city Department of Public Works stored salt. In the winter, it snows. You put snow down on the street, melt the snow, and this is where they kept the snow. Prime real estate here on the waterfront, and it was used for salt, if you can believe that. So it's good news that they have actually turned it into what it is now, because you get some spectacular views from inside this park. We've got the Key Bridge. So the last time I came to Georgetown, I started in Virginia. I crossed over the Key Bridge. That's Roslyn right there. That's a neighborhood in Arlington, Virginia. So to show you exactly what I did last time, so I started at Roosevelt Island, which is this island with all these trees on it right here. I crossed over the little footbridge there, and then I walked up the trail to get to the Key Bridge, crossed over the Key Bridge on foot, and went over to Georgetown University. So it's pretty cool because you can get to Georgetown from the Arlington side pretty easily, and if you want to see exactly how to do it, you can go back and watch the replay of that live stream. Eddie's Videos is coming from Houston, Texas, and then we'll be taking the train to New York City after for a couple of days in DC. A very good way to do it. Last time I took an Amtrak train was to go to New York City for a weekend visit. And that is, in my opinion, the best way to get up there by far. Not the cheapest. The cheapest would be to ride a bus, but the train is very pleasant. The coach class on an Amtrak train is basically the equivalent of business class on most airlines. So you're not going to be squeezed in there. You're going to be comfortable when you take the train. And I don't think that's necessarily true if you take the bus. And Hannah Fountain is doing Amtrak from Providence. That's interesting. I have been to Providence before. I did not take a train, I flew. So Providence, I'm gonna guess, Hannah, tell me if I'm right, it's probably about 6 hours on the train, maybe 6.5 hours. Because I believe to go all the way to Boston is approximately 8 hours on the train. Maria says Georgetown Waterfront has a lot of fun Halloween deco. So I was a little disappointed, I have to be honest here, Maria, that I walked over from the Foggy Bottom Metro and I was hoping to see a bunch of houses decked out for Halloween, and I didn't really see too many. Now that's probably just the route I picked. I probably could have done a little more research and found out who already put up their decorations. but the route that I picked did not have very many Halloween decorations yet. Now Halloween's still 2 weeks away, so I'll give people time to get their act together, get their Halloween decorations out. And I am thinking of doing a Halloween walk, probably around Capitol Hill, as that's also a neighborhood that takes Halloween quite seriously. So we'll check out some Halloween decorations 2 Sundays from now. Carrie, hi from New Orleans. Good to see you here, Carrie. No problem, Hannah Fountain. Happy to help. Jeff J says, everyone knows how driving and parking in the city is a nightmare. I both agree and disagree. I think if you try to park on the street, that's a nightmare. If you try to park, someplace that's a little bit sketchy because you're trying to save money, yeah, that's a nightmare. But if you just drive straight to Union Station and put your car there, perfectly safe. That's usually what I recommend people do when they drive to DC. Just drive straight to Union Station, park the car in the garage, and then forget about it. And then when you're ready to go, take the metro back to Union Station, pick up the car, and you're out of there. And Union Station is a good parking spot because it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not every garage is like that. Jay Stewart confirming that it is 4:15 p.m. in the UK. Have you ended daylight savings time over there in the UK, Jay? I believe we have 3 more weeks of daylight savings time here in the US. Hannah Fountain says, the train is great unless a hurricane messes with your trip. That's true. Hurricane would mess with your airplane trip too, so can't really do anything about a hurricane. So I think the train is great. I think if you drive, just choose in advance where you're going to park, leave your car parked, and then when you're ready to go pick it back up. Leor, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for tuning in. And Silver 852 is from Germany and would like to come to DC next year. Hopefully that can happen. I know that, I believe it's on November 8th. Europeans can vacation in the US again. Now, we don't get a whole lot of international tourists here in DC. There's not none, don't get me wrong, but compared to New York City, Orlando, even Las Vegas, a lot fewer Europeans come to DC than those destinations. And Leor is tuned in from Jerusalem, Israel. Visited DC in September 2019. Sorry to hear that the tours were full. I just opened the tour schedule for the rest of November and December. So I made this announcement to the TripX DC insiders a couple weeks ago. They got early access to the tour schedule, but I have not announced on social media yet. I will probably tomorrow or on Tuesday that the tour schedule is now open for the remainder of November and December. So if you're coming and you want to take a private tour, go ahead and get on that because, like Leor said, once it's booked, and there's only one of me. So you want to make sure you book that early if you want to get in on it. The Monumental Trivia Tour, the public tour, the last one will be a week from Friday. And then that one will go on hiatus for the winter, and then we'll come back next March. So that one has been run by Christine on Friday evenings. Christine is crushing it. She's gotten tons of great reviews on Google, TripAdvisor. So very happy about how that has turned out. If you've been on either the private tour with me or the Monumental Trivia Tour, leave a chat or a comment so that everybody else knows. I know I've seen some of you on tours. Eddie, I saw you earlier this year. And let's see, Eddie Saunders says that he likes coach class on Amtrak. But as I'm normally working on the train, I book a room with Amtrak points. If you travel a lot on Amtrak, you can definitely take advantage of the reward program, Amtrak Guest Rewards. It used to be, the Amtrak credit card used to be a Chase credit card. So people who did the Chase points, that used to be a very valuable redemption, was to transfer your Chase points to Amtrak and then redeem for business class ticket. You can get some really good rewards that way. Unfortunately, they switched to a different bank. I can't remember which one. If anyone knows and can confirm, leave it in the chat. I think it might be Bank of America does the Amtrak credit card now. So unfortunately, you either have to have the Bank of America credit card, or you have to, or whatever bank it is, or you have to travel on Amtrak and earn the points that way. And Jay is getting the train from New York, from DC. A lot of train riders in the audience today. I'm a fan. The train is a great way to get between DC and New York. Now, Jay, you have to set your expectations, because American train, the most comfortable American train, is not going to live up to probably even a mediocre European train. Now, it depends on the country. Some countries have nicer trains than others, but as a very, very broad generalization, European trains are typically nicer, better than American trains. Ah, Maria, not the houses, literally the harbor. Walk from the Starbucks down the steps. Okay, good to know. Thank you for that tip, Maria. Not sure if I'll walk that direction today, but I am going to do a Halloween live stream, hopefully 2 weeks from today. Check out some of that stuff. It's a little chilly for this today, which is why there's nobody in it, but this is one of the city's splash pads or spray parks. I'm not quite sure which one this is, a splash pad or a spray park. But on a hot day, come over here, stick your head in the water, and that'll cool you down real quick. It's really meant for kids, but if you're an adult and you just stick your head in, I don't think anybody's gonna, especially on a hot day, anybody's gonna give you too much grief over that. Hannah Fountain says, over 7 hours on the train from Providence, Rhode Island, but it's comfortable and a blessing not to drive. So yes, I would not drive to Providence, Rhode Island. I think for me, it would be a question of whether I would take the train, which is 7 hours, or fly, which you could probably do in half that amount of time, even counting the getting to and from the airport. Nice little seating area over here. Now I want to show you where we're going next. So that is the Kennedy Center, straight ahead. That is the building that's in the thumbnail for this video. So a lot of people recognize the Kennedy Center. It's pretty iconic. And then right next door, that's kind of hard to see because there's some trees in the way. That's the Watergate. A lot of people know of the Watergate because of its role in the Nixon saga. But the Watergate is a massive complex. It has condos, so you can live there. It has office buildings, so companies have their office buildings there. And it has the Watergate Hotel. The Watergate Hotel of 2021 is a renovated hotel. It's a little different than the one that was around in the 60s and 70s, but it's all there. It's all in the complex. So we'll walk past on the way over. What a beautiful day, if I may say. All right, Jay Stewart says 2 more weeks until daylight savings time ends in the UK. Good to know. We've got 2 or 3 more weeks here as well. And Denisa, hopefully I pronounced that right, is from Chile. Nice to see the places where I used to walk. Did you live in Georgetown, Denisa, or did you just like to come over here to walk? It is a very nice place to come for a walk, and it is a beautiful day. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you might be confused if you're watching this, because some people are going to be in sweatshirts and jackets and jeans, and other people are going to be in shorts and a t-shirt. The temperature in the shade, where I am now, is quite a bit cooler than the temperature in the sun, straight ahead. And it's a little breezy today, so when a big breeze blows through, it cools it down a little bit too. You might say we get a little bit of wind chill here. We're going to be going past a few of the waterfront restaurants here. Popular spots to come for a meal. I've been to a few of them. I have not been to Fio La Mer. I have been to Sequoia, which is, I think, the next one down. All right, Leor asks, what would I recommend to U.S. history lovers that are coming for a second time and have already been to all the major attractions and museums? So definitely got to take a tour of the monuments if you didn't do that. And I would also check to see what new exhibits are at the museums, because the exhibits are changing all the time. That's the cool thing about it. And so even if you went to, say, the American History Museum before, there might be something new that's on display. And also, I would wonder if you really explored every exhibit of every museum, because there's so much that a lot of people, when they go to the museums, they pop into the things that seem the most interesting to them in the moment, but they don't see it all. So I would just consider that, Lior. Eddie Saunders had a blast on the tour. I had a blast giving you the tour, Eddie, and your wife, Jen. Hopefully we can do another one this year, if you're able to swing it. And Given to Dream is doing the Monumental Trivia Tour this Friday. Fantastic. Christine will be leading that one. It is almost sold out. There's only one ticket left for this Friday. So if you want to get in on it, because only one ticket left. Okay, this is where we have the Georgetown ice skating rink in the winter. I'm going to be honest here, I should have looked this up before I started the live stream. I did not look up to see if it will be coming back this year, but I really hope that it is. This is the biggest ice skating rink. It's also one of the most popular and crowded ice skating rinks. So if you are into ice skating as a winter activity, hopefully they bring this back and you can come do it. But we've got at least in the before times, we had at least 4 ice skating rinks in DC that you could enjoy. Okay, Given to Dream has a good question about same-day passes for the museums that require passes. So we are in a bit of an off-season, so it's a little bit less busy here now than it was in the summer. So you could try the website. That's the first thing you could try. And if all else fails, I can't promise this will work, but I have heard people who have come on my tour said that this has worked, is that you can pick up the phone, press numbers, and actually call them on the phone and ask. And maybe if you ask really politely and the person answering the phone is in a good mood, they'll help you out. No guarantees, but when you call, be extremely polite, because nobody wants to help out somebody who's giving them grief on the phone. That might seem obvious, but you would be surprised. Melvin Wong is going to DC in the end of December from Singapore. Fantastic. But White House tours will be suspended. Yes, White House tours have been suspended since the beginning of the pandemic and have not returned. Actually, I believe they might have very briefly returned and then went back away when we had that horrible spike last winter. Instead, you can go to the White House Visitor Center, which is across the street in the Commerce Building. It's not the same thing as going inside the actual White House, but it's actually a surprisingly good little museum. And it's a little museum, so it doesn't take all day to see it. Bobby Planzer, good to see you, my friend. Albert Mittenberg is tuned in from The Hague in the Netherlands. Nice weather today. Nice weather where you are, because there's definitely nice weather here. Capital Weather Gang, I don't think gave today a 10 out of 10, but they might have missed the boat on that. This is about as close as a 10 out of 10 day as you can get. When I was walking over to Georgetown from the metro, it was quite breezy, but it has not been too breezy since I got over to the waterfront. And Albert hopes to visit DC again soon. I hope you can visit again soon, Albert. And Danisa lived in McLean, Virginia. So if you live in Northern Virginia or the suburbs, coming over to Georgetown is definitely a popular spot to come for a walk. No doubt about that. Dave Wheeler, good morning, my friend. It's 53 and chilly in the central coast of California. I swear every time you join, Dave, it's chilly where you live, which on a hot July day sounds awfully nice to me, but I'll take today's weather for Washington, D.C. Carrie asks, does it snow in D.C. in November? Very, very, very low risk of that happening. Now, there's always a chance of a freak storm or something like that, but very, very low risk of snow in November in D.C. The snowiest month is January, and we get on average about 1 foot of snow per year, or it's like 12 to 15 inches in that range. So it's not like going to San Diego or Miami where there's a 0% chance of snow. It's a small chance, but it's also not like you're going to Boston or Minneapolis or some other very snowy place. Given to dream, no problem. Happy to help. Enjoy the tour on Friday with Christine. It'll be a fun one. And it's getting dark early at this time of year, so daylight savings ends soon. Oop, we've got a trail closed over here, so I'm going to switch over to this spot. We're going to detour today. Although these ladies are just walking on the trail anyway. I will follow the rules and cross the street first before heading down. All right, Jay Stewart says that he visited DC at Thanksgiving a few years ago, and it was t-shirt weather during the day, but very chilly at night. Yeah, that sounds about right, Jay. I've definitely done some t-shirt tours in November. November is the kind of month where you might be wearing a coat or you might be wearing a t-shirt. It's all just dumb luck. Exactly what weather you're going to get. Okay, Alan Wynn with a good question. The best time to see the fall colors in the trees. So in general, the best time is, and this is going to be a big range, which isn't especially helpful, but the range is mid-October through mid-November, which technically is where we are right now. It is mid-October, and there are some trees starting to change, but not a ton of colors yet. But I have definitely been out giving a tour on Thanksgiving before and seen some trees really lit up in color. So there are maps that you can look at online, and it will tell you for different parts of the country whether the leaves are early, whether they're in peak bloom, or not peak bloom, peak color change, or whether they're past peak. And it goes north to south. So if you're way up in Vermont, you're probably already past peak. And then, northern New York is probably already past peak, and then it slowly comes down the coast, and we tend to get it later. So you could just look around right now and see that most of the trees' leaves are still green or just starting to change, if that helps you out at all, Alan. Dave Wheeler says yesterday was 78 in his part of California. That is interesting to know. So this is the Watergate up here on the left. Huge complex. If anyone has been watching the show Impeachment, American Crime Story, the Monica Lewinsky drama on TV, this is where she lived. So this is a big part of that show. Now, of course, like most shows, some of the scenes were filmed in DC, but many of them were not. And many of the scenes were filmed at the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles. And I have actually stayed at that hotel before, so every time I see a scene pop up from inside that hotel, I always get a bit excited and a little disappointed because they're trying to pass off something that I know is not right. So in the show, they used that hotel to stand in for a bar in DC. They used it to stand in for a hotel in Little Rock, and they also used it to stand in for itself, a hotel in Los Angeles. But I won't give any spoilers about the show. Of course, how can you spoil a show that's based on something that actually happened? But it's a very entertaining show, if you haven't seen it. Vivian Young has been watching the show and loves it. I question how realistic some of it is, how much creative license the showmakers took. But as far as entertainment value, it does have some good entertainment value. It's getting a little breezy now, so I'm starting to feel some breeze and So I'm in the shade. Now I did bring my microphone that has the wind screen on it, so hopefully you're not getting that wind sound too bad in your ears back home. One of the things I've always struggled with doing these is the audio. Obviously, getting a strong cell connection is the most important thing that I had a little trouble with at the beginning, but getting solid audio is a challenge as well. All right, Dave Wheeler says, think we have decided on September next year for a visit. I was wondering how far in advance to book a tour. So if you're asking about a Trip Hacks DC tour, my advice, so say your dates are September 1st through the 7th, send me an email and say, hey, this is when we're coming. And then as soon as I open up the September schedule, I'll send you a message so you can go on and book. Because this year I've only been opening up private tours about 2 months in advance, if that much, just because things have always, a lot of stuff is just in flux. And so I can't really open them up 6 months in advance and then something changes. But there's only one of me, so it's really important that as soon as you know your dates, if you really want to do the tour, and especially if you're only in town for a short amount of time, that you book it as soon as you can. So just go on triphacksdc.com, Dave. There's a contact button. There's a form. You can fill that out. That goes straight into my inbox. Vivian, thank you for confirming. Audio sounds good. I'm glad the wind screen is working, doing its job, because it did get quite a bit breezy over there. Colin Shenfield, good morning, my friend. A Trip Hacks DC insider. Hopefully you will be joining me for the Insiders Extended Walk coming up here in about 15 minutes, we'll say. Well, since I had to come to this side of the Kennedy Center, I might as well take you up the stairs and past the door so we can see that. I was hoping to go down the waterfront, but trail is closed. So we'll just take the scenic route, or the less scenic route, I'd suppose, depending on your perspective. Let me know in the chat if you have attended a show at the Kennedy Center. And if you have, what show it was, what type of show it was. Was it a musical? Was it Hamilton? Was it orchestra, National Symphony Orchestra? Was it opera? There's lots of good opera. Was it a show at the Millennium Stage, which is where they have the free shows? Or was it something else? Super curious to know. All right, I'm actually going to try to go around to the side, to the terrace, where we can get some good views. Not sure if it'll be open, but we'll see. We'll see. Evan Cortez saw Phantom a few years ago. How'd you like it? They have all kinds of different performing arts here. So, I'm totally blanking on the comedian's name. Oh, John Oliver. He does a show here every once in a while, comedy show. Trevor Noah, I believe, has done shows here, comedy shows. I actually cannot, I might be wrong about that, but I believe John Oliver has done shows here. And then, of course, you have Hamilton when that comes through. Hamilton crashed the Kennedy Center website the first time it came through. And Kennedy Center members got really frustrated because they were trying to get tickets to other shows, non-Hamilton shows, and they couldn't even get on the website to get their tickets because Hamilton tanked the whole thing. So I guess that's not surprising, but it's a popular show. I have not seen it live. I have seen the version on Disney Plus streaming. Okay, Karen McGinn saw Into the Woods at the Kennedy Center 30 years ago. Well, it's been here for that long, so I fully trust you on that, Karen. And yes, it is a beautiful venue. This terrace is one of the gems, the hidden gems, I suppose you could say. Now, it's quite windy and chilly up here right now. That's why there's probably not many other people up here, but come up here, you get some amazing views of the waterfront. Watergate over there. And then once these leaves fall down, you'll get an even more spectacular view. So that's Georgetown. That's where we kind of sort of started over there. The two big things sticking up in the sky, that's part of Georgetown University. Peter Hedberg, good to see you, my friend. Tuned in from Sweden today, Peter. You were in London for the Falcons versus Jets game. I'm glad you were able to travel. And I believe it's what, November 8th that you can come back to the U.S.? Vaccinated travelers can come back to the U.S. if I saw the headline correctly. So I hope that that's good news for you, Peter. I know that has been quite frustrating to not be able to come over here. Evan Cortez loved Phantom. I haven't seen Phantom, I'm afraid to say. I'm afraid to say I probably haven't seen most of the performing arts that happen here. I got to make a better habit of that because it's quite an amazing resource. And Peter says New York booked June 2022, I think that means. I'm glad to hear it. Don't know if you'll be able to pop down here to DC, Peter, but New York is a fantastic place to visit, and I can't fault you for going there. Eddie Saunders, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Happy you were able to tune in. I think we'll have quite a few people tuned in for the extended live walk today, the Insiders Extended Live Walk. And if you want to join that, or you want to become an insider for the early access to videos, for the early access to tours, for the merch discounts, for all the other things, underneath the video, if you're on a computer, there should be a join button. If you're on an Android phone, there should be a join button. I recently learned that on an iPhone, this button does not appear. So I added a link that will take you to the sign-up spot. And I believe it is triphacksdc.com/joininsiders. The link's down there, so check it out. Appreciate that, Eddie. All right, let's see. Martin Jenkins from Bristol, England. Would love to book a Monumental Trivia Twilight Tour in December 2021. Sorry to say, Martin, the trivia tour will be going on winter break. So the last one is going to be 1 week from this upcoming Friday. I believe that's October 29th. That will be the last one of the season. And then it will return again in March. However, I will be running private tours year-round. So if you're coming in December, my private tour schedule is now open. Private tours on weeknights are shortened to 2 hours during the winter. So it's a little bit less expensive if that's a consideration. If you do a weeknight private tour with me, it is 2 hours long, and it is 1/3 less the price because it's 1/3 as long. Unfortunately, I need at least 6 people signed up for the Monumental Trivia Tour to break even. And in the past, I would have said, this is just the cost of a growing business, but this year, after all we've been through, I just can't run money-losing tours. So it's great for you if you're visiting and you wind up on a tour with just 2 people or just 3 people like happened 2 days ago. But unfortunately for me, it's not sustainable. So I have to put the trivia tour on hiatus for the winter because there's just not enough people here in the winter months. So this is the new, I believe this is called the Reach at the Kennedy Center. It's like a hangout spot. Pretty cool stuff over here. I'm trying to decide if I want to go over here, if I can get back onto the trail, or if I should go the opposite direction. Can't really see much from over there. Well, let's see. These people are all going somewhere, so I'm just going to follow the crowd, see where they wind up. So yes, like I said, this is called the Reach at the Kennedy Center. Now. You can send a super chat through YouTube if you would like. Obviously, no obligation to do that, but if you would like, you can find the super chat button. I believe there's also a super stickers button somewhere on there. All right, Jay Stewart says, we've lost you. Can anyone confirm? Am I back? Am I here? Or am I gone? I will attempt to restart if it is truly lost. Thank you, Jay. Sorry for the technical difficulty. So this is a cool hangout spot. They do happy hours and such. Right now it looks like it's a BYOB situation. BYOS, bring your own snacks. I'm going to try to go this way. Now the question is, where is this detour sign actually pointing people to go? Okay, I don't think I want to go to Virginia, so I'll turn a left here. Try to go back over this way, towards the Kennedy Center. Nothing quite like getting lost when I'm supposed to be the tour guide and know where to go. But sometimes it happens. Got to detour and find your way around. Sorry for the technical difficulties, as sometimes happens on these. If you have tuned in before, unfortunately, you know. Jay Stewart, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Very much appreciated. And Dave Wheeler with the reminder, hit the thumbs up. I programmed in the night bot. Not sure if anyone else noticed that. If it's working, it should have sent a reminder every 10 minutes or so to press the like button on the video. Those are always helpful. The likes, they let me know that people actually like these. A lot of people on YouTube say, well, you got to press the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and that may be true, but I have no idea if it actually is true. But the real reason to press the like button is because it makes me know that you actually enjoy doing these. Thank you, Karen. I'm glad to hear that Nightbot is working. I guess it's working in the sense that it's posting messages in the chat. Whether it's working as to actually entice people to press the like button, I have no idea. Got to be honest, I did not expect to be walking down this little thing here. I was planning on being over by the Lincoln Memorial by now, but alas, as it happens. I think I have enough battery to hopefully make it over there and then do the extended live walk. So I will try to stick to the mission of making it over to Lincoln. No promises, but I'll do my best here. But hey, at least we got to check out the reach at the Kennedy Center, which is pretty cool. If you were wondering about what that was like, now you know. So lots of shows have returned to the Kennedy Center, so that is good news. I have not been to one since it reopened, I'm afraid to say. Just haven't found the time yet to make it over there, but I'm happy that it is reopened. I'm going to venture to guess that unless you have been to the Kennedy Center and walked over here, that this is probably not a part of town that you have ever seen. Now, when you go to the Kennedy Center, there is, or at least there was, a shuttle bus that went to the Foggy Bottom station. And I think it was like a red little mini bus. And so you would wait at the stop outside of Foggy Bottom Station, and then it would come pick you up, drive you right to the front door of the Kennedy Center. You could also walk from the Foggy Bottom Station. So if you walked from the station, you may have seen this before. I've done both, walked and taken the shuttle. And of course, in the modern age, you could take an Uber or a cab over here. My guess is that that's how many people arrive at the Kennedy Center nowadays. Good question, Jay. What area is this? Washington, D.C. does not have official neighborhood boundaries or definitions like other cities do. But my guess is that most people would probably call this area Foggy Bottom. This is where there used to be industrial stuff, back when DC had industrial stuff. Now, it never had nearly as much as many other cities, but the neighborhood was named for the industrial fog that would cover the sky in this area. There's a really good book I checked out from the library a few years ago. I believe it was called How the Neighborhoods Got Their Names or something like that. The title of the book is very descriptive of what it is, but it was quite fascinating. The one that most people are surprised to learn is the neighborhood called Adams Morgan. They think it's named after a person named Adam Morgan, when in fact, it's not called Adam Morgan, it's called Adams, plural, Morgan. And so it's named after two people, not just a single person. And I think that people find that to be a bit surprising, but and Jay says, the West Wing told me the cell service was poor when I watched it. Must have improved over the years. I'm curious what you're referring to exactly, Jay. Foggy Bottom is also referred to in popular culture when people refer to the State Department. And that's because in DC, you often refer to a geographic location to refer to a government agency. So, for example, instead of saying the Department of Defense, you might say the Pentagon. If you watch the news, especially on your side of the pond, Jay, instead of referring to the White House, they might refer to, just Washington. Colin Shenfield says ADMO is one of my favorite areas. ADMO short for Adams Morgan, of course. Looks like this is a long crossing. We'll have to wait for the light to turn. So yeah, Foggy Bottom was mentioned quite a lot in the West Wing. So Foggy Bottom is often used as a stand-in for the Department of State. So if some politician type person were to say, call Foggy Bottom, what they're really saying is call the Secretary of State. One of those inside baseball things. And ADMO, of course, short for Adams Morgan. The little shortened names, all the rage these days. Some people like them, some people hate them. I suppose I'm rather agnostic about it. You can call it ADMO if you'd like, or Adams Morgan. Another one is called NOMA, which stands for North of Massachusetts Avenue. Slowly finding my way back to the beaten track so we can head down by the National Mall. Alan Wynn says, speaking of inside baseball, the Nats, though, the Washington Nationals, last place in the National League East this year. You know what's incredible is that the Red Sox are looking fairly decent for making it to the World Series. And what's incredible is if the Nationals had not gotten swept by the Red Sox in that final game of the series, it might have turned out very differently. Now, none of the teams that are currently still in contention are teams I root for, so I have no skin in the game here. Just making an observation, if I may. Residence Inn, I believe this is called the Residence Inn Foggy Bottom. And if I remember correctly, my friend Chris Rainey from Yellow Productions did a video review of this hotel. He's done video reviews of many hotels in DC. I believe he did one of that one. And if I recall, I think he only gave it three Tophers out of the 5 on the scale. Now this area is what I would clearly, squarely state is Foggy Bottom. So if you live in one of these homes or one of these apartments, it is safe to say that you live in Foggy Bottom. This is where the George Washington University is. For more context. And behind here, this is where the Foggy Bottom metro station is. Colin Shenfield's got a good question. Have I seen any of the art events / installations in the old DuPont Circle stations? So that is called the DuPont Underground. And I have actually not seen the art there, but I did see a presentation by the folks who were running it about their vision for the space, for whatever that's worth. George Washington University Medical Center, the hospital is right over here, and the metro is straight ahead. So some people are surprised to learn that the Smithsonian National Mall station is not actually the closest station to many of the sites you may want to visit on the National Mall. If you want to go to the Lincoln Memorial, the Foggy Bottom station is actually the closest to the Lincoln Memorial. Anyway, back to Colin's question about the DuPont Underground. So it is a former streetcar station. So it's not a former metro station. So before the metro was built, Washington, D.C., and many cities for that matter, had streetcars. So they're like the trolleys with the tracks in the middle of the street. Many European cities still have them. Some American cities have brought them back. We have one in DC on H Street Northeast, but for the most part, most, if not all, of the original streetcar tracks were removed and the system was abolished. And so at DuPont Circle, the streetcar used to go underneath the circle. That's where the tracks would go, and then the traffic, foot traffic and car traffic would go above on street level. So when the streetcar closed, they basically had these abandoned tunnels and nothing to do with them. So many people have tried to envision different things for these tunnels over the years, but they did start the DuPont Underground, which is basically using them for art. One of the worst ideas they had for the DuPont Underground was to turn it into a food court. Believe it or not, there are a decent number of office buildings over by DuPont Circle, and so they had the brilliant idea to build a food court down there, and it did not last long. It was not a commercial success because there's already so many places to eat in that area that who wants to go underground to this not so great looking food court to get lunch when you have better options above ground? Now, in the before times, you did the art shows at the DuPont Underground. They were on a limited schedule. You did need to have tickets. And I believe they mostly ran on the weekends, which is, of course, when I'm often busiest with giving tours and stuff like that. So, never really went. Unfortunate, because that's something I would have been into, at least so that I could tell other people about it, recommend it. But once it reopens, hopefully I'll be able to go again. Okay, so we are now on 23rd Street. Once you get off the Foggy Bottom metro station, you immediately turn right on 23rd Street, and you walk down this sidewalk, and in approximately 20 minutes, you arrive at the Lincoln Memorial. So if you're coming in from, say, Virginia, say you're coming in on the orange line from Virginia and you want to go to the National Mall, it very well may be preferable to get off at Foggy Bottom, start at the Lincoln Memorial, and then make your way down the mall towards the museums on the other end. Versus if you ride all the way to the Smithsonian Station, then you're basically starting on the complete opposite side and you come in the other way. Now, if you're coming in from Maryland, if you're coming in on the orange or blue line from the opposite direction, then it may well be better to get off at the Smithsonian Station and walk in that direction. So it really just depends on where you're coming from and what you're trying to get to. Now, when I do the Monuments Tour in the winter, we actually start at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. In the summer tour, if you've taken it with me, you know we start at the Jefferson Memorial. And so, depending on how the weather is like, I may take a Capital Bike Share bike and bike over to the starting spot. Or I might take the Metro, and I might take this exact route that I'm walking right now. Take the Metro to Foggy Bottom, right on 23rd Street, and down the street until you get to Lincoln/Vietnam. Maria, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Very much appreciated. Apologies for the noise. Wouldn't be a weekend in DC without the sounds of the city. The ambulance siren blaring. Of course, George Washington University Hospital is just up the street on 23rd Street, so when you're in this area, you can usually expect to hear quite a few ambulance sirens going to and from the hospital. Jeff J said my dogs did not like that siren. Sounds like your dogs would not be city living dogs, or at least they may take some getting used to it. Are you watching are you watching this on a TV, Jeff? I'm always curious if people like to put this up on their smart TV or whether they like to watch on a phone or a computer. I personally like to watch on a computer, like a laptop, because then I can do other things while I'm watching. I suppose if you put it up on a TV, you could do other things too. Maria, of course, happy to do the walks. Now that we have gotten into tour off season, it's a little easier for me to do the walks. When we're in the spring and summer, I try to make myself available for tours on weekend mornings because if people are here and they want to take a tour, I want to make sure I'm available for it. I actually didn't announce this one until Friday because I wanted to see if anyone would sign up for the Sunday morning tour. They did not. And Jeff J is watching this on a living room TV. Good stuff. If you want to watch the 4K cherry blossom video that I posted in April, I highly recommend that on a 4K TV if possible. That's one of the few 4K videos I've really made an effort to make look really good. Because most of my videos are not about the cinematography, they're about the information, the content. So I don't go to extreme lengths to get 4K footage and all that, but that one I did. Okay, so Jay, here we have the Department of State over here on the left. Like many federal government office buildings, quite ugly. Not going to win any awards for beautiful buildings. But because of its location, that's why you will hear in the West Wing references to Foggy Bottom. And typically they are using that as a reference to the State Department or the Secretary of State. Maria says, Rock Creek calling. Rock Creek is fantastic at this time of year. Unfortunately, I don't think I can do one of these in Rock Creek because when I attempted to do the National Zoo a few weeks ago, that was a total bomb. And I felt bad because it was constant buffering and didn't work at all. So if anybody tuned in for that and stuck around, I appreciate you because that was not a pleasant one. I've been doing these for about 3/4 of a year now, and one thing I've learned is that some locations work much better than others. Typically the more urban locations, the places where people live and work, have the best signals. Trying to go deep into a park doesn't work so well. Same thing even with the National Mall and East Potomac Park. When I try to do the live walk around East Potomac Park, because that's where there's a lot of good cherry blossoms in the spring, that one was a bit of a struggle as well. Yes, Jeff J, I have a 4K TV too, and the cable box that I have plugged into it, it's not 4K. And from what I understand, most shows on TV are not recorded in 4K. Only like certain sports nowadays you can even get in 4K. So it's very rare that I even have an opportunity to use the 4K on my TV. So with that cherry blossoms video, I tried really hard to make it look as good as possible so that people who have a 4K TV can actually use their TV as it was intended. Flora Silva, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Eddie Saunders commenting on the brutalist style of architecture of the federal buildings. If you have seen the FBI headquarters, the HUD headquarters, those are the two that most people notice. The FBI, just because of its location. Anyone walking down Pennsylvania Avenue sees the FBI building, and that is a prime example of brutalist architecture. No problem, Jay. Vivian Young is also watching on a TV. I find this fascinating. Cold player, yes, we all went through something together on that zoo live stream. That was rough. That was a rough one. And then as soon as I got outside the gates of the zoo back onto Connecticut Avenue, all was well, and then it worked perfectly fine. So the lesson learned there is trying to take your phone into Rock Creek Park does not work well. And I think it was Eddie, was it you, Eddie, who said you didn't have any signal when you were in the zoo either? Something about the park. So, not going to be able to live stream from inside the park, but maybe I'll be able to take my regular camera in there and record something in 4K if I'm able to sneak in there this fall. Flora Silva, thank you for the super sticker, I believe is what that is. It says on mine, Shiba Dog, gifting a large bone, bowing respectfully. I don't get the super stickers come through in my chat. I get a description of what it is, which I think is funny. Alan Wynn, thank you, my friend. National Zoo was great to see, glitches and all. I am working on a new tips video for the National Zoo because a lot has changed since the one I did 3 years ago. And here's something that anyone has ever made videos. This is embarrassing, but I feel like anyone who's ever made videos can relate to this. Before the live stream I did at the zoo, I recorded some footage just of like stuff at the zoo, like walking around on the paths, the panda exhibit, the Starbucks across the street, which some guy got really mad at me about that. If you're an insider, I can tell you about that when we start the extended walk. But I got this footage, and then I brought it home and I just put the camera away, and I forgot about it for a little while. And then when I went to record my next video, I cleared the memory card, as one does, to clear up the space, and it had all my zoo footage on it. I never downloaded it, so. Could have been a lot worse. I'm generally quite good at remembering to back up my footage, but I gotta actually download it from the camera first before I can back it up. Jeff J says, if I'm near an Ant Pizza, I ate at my first solo trip in DC. Still remember that cold January night. Big fan of Ant Pizza myself. They send me coupons by text every once in a while, and I appreciate that because I almost never pay full price for Ant Pizza. So once you order from them, if you give them your phone number, they'll text you coupons all the time. Yes, I crossed Constitution Avenue back there. Gary Sorensen says the old EOB. So the old EOB, Executive Office Building, is not a brutalist style. It was built way before that. But what it shares with brutalism is that when it was first built, many people hated it, and they called it extremely ugly. But I'm not an architecture expert, so that is all I'll say about that. Robert Hughes wanted the zoo to work out, but it didn't. I'll try to do something zoo-related. I'm very disappointed because the zoo canceled zoo lights this year. They canceled Boo at the Zoo, and they canceled zoo lights. And they blamed COVID, but I think there were other reasons for it. But I won't speculate on that, because it's not fair, since I don't know for sure. Okay, Jay Stewart, wife is watching on TV and I'm watching on my cell phone so I can comment. Oh, that is a good point. I totally forgot that if you're watching on a TV, you don't have the ability to comment, or at least not easily. Well, I'm glad that you got the old phone out, Jay, so that you could comment. Jeff J, I save everything in the cloud as a backup. Yeah, so do I, but it requires the first crucial step of actually downloading the footage from the camera to the computer before you can do the backup, which I failed to do on that zoo stuff. But it doesn't mean I'm never going to do a zoo video. I'm probably just going to do it next year. And Gisela went to the zoo and did not see the panda's sad face. The pandas sleep for like 22 hours a day. So if you're lucky and you can see them active, that's pretty cool, but you gotta set the right expectations. Rowan says, love visiting DC. My dad lives there, bringing my wife for a Christmas visit. Excellent. I will have a Christmas video, Christmas update video, so expect that in about 1 month. I'm still collecting information about that. Oh, there's more to your comment, Rowan. Just found the channel, planning a last minute trip solo in 3 weeks. any top hints or videos I should check out first. So I have a playlist for like the must-watch videos, or like the most important videos, because there's like 200 now, so I realize it's hard to find. But if anyone else has a favorite video they want to recommend to Rowan, leave them a chat. I'm gonna go over to Lincoln, so I only have about 1 minute left on this live stream, so we can start saying our goodbyes. And if you are a TripXDC insider, then we will take a several minute break for me to restart the phone. I don't want the same thing that happened as happened last time. And then I will start the extended walk. So there should be a link in the description of this video. You can click on that if you're a member. If you're a TripXDC insider, you'll be able to watch. If you're not an insider, you can still click on it, but you won't be able to watch until you become a member. Vivian Young comments on the TV. I would love to know how that works. Do you have a keyboard hooked up to it? Jeff J, no problem. Thank you for tuning in, Jeff. Glad to see you here. Colin Shenfield would recommend the video on using GPay for Metro and Bus. That's a good one. That's a new one, too. Vivian Young, thank you for tuning in, my friend. Robert Hughes, good to see you. Dave Wheeler, of course. Thank you for waking up early and tuning in. Anna grew up in the DMV, but have mostly lost my tolerance to cold, having lived in Florida. It looks fairly warm. What's the current temp? So I believe on the thermometer, it probably says the temp is in the 50s, but in the sun is really warming things up. So it actually feels quite a bit warmer here in the sun. But you can go on Google and type in weather Washington, D.C., and you can see what the temp it says it is. Gary Sorensen, good to see you. Alan Wynn, thank you for tuning in. Vivian Young uses the remote. Impressive, impressive. I got to learn more about how to watch YouTube on my TV so I can do it more often. All right, Anna, thank you for tuning in. And if you are an insider, give me about 3 minutes to restart the phone, and then I will begin the extended walk. Link is in today's live walk. I will have another one 2 weeks from today on announcement a few days in advance, and include the link. Jay Stewart, good to see you, my friend. Eddie, yes, the memorial looks very busy. Hopefully you'll be able to join me soon. Cold Player, hopefully I'll see you soon too. And Gisela, thanks for tuning in. Regards from Mexico. And as I say at the end of every one of these videos, enjoy your trip.